So, what is the Digital Services Act? Digital Services Act is an EU regulation that is directly applicable in the member states, which means essentially it's a one legislation that rules all the services that are provided to the individuals in Europe. You can think of it as a regulatory tax. It's kind of inevitable rules that apply to all services that are powered by user-generated content. So user-generated content is basically content that users generate on services. The goal of a DSA is to regulate trust and safety of these services. So how the services allow third parties to notify illegal content and how they deal with the certain types of risks for minors, consumers, and others. From the perspective of the industry, it is a new regulation that actually regulates the industry that was largely left unregulated in this area for the last 20 years. So it's a shift from being a self-regulated to being regulated through minimum requirements. So the companies still set their own rules for trust and safety. They call them moderation rules, but the government, the European government, sets minimal rules for how the trust and safety needs to look like. From the perspective of the ecosystem, because the law is about all services that are powered by user-generated content and infrastructure services, we are covering actually large parts of the ecosystem. We're covering the content layer, the most visible layer of the internet that you engage with all the time, such as search engines, online marketplaces, blogging platforms, video sharing services, social media. But we're also covering the middle layer, and that is the cloud and web hosting services, messaging apps, online maps and app stores. So all these services are regulated and actually regulated quite extensively through the DSA. They're mostly regulated as online platforms, sometimes as hosting services. And then we also have part of a DSA that is less about the visible part of the internet, and it's about infrastructure. And here the main regulation really is about transparency. So this is transparency of the actors such as internet access providers, VPN providers, and many others. So these services are also subject to some rules, but light touch compared to the top layer that has more obligations, particularly because it has also more problems. So how you can think about a DSA? Well, you can think about a DSA as a new big internet law for the coming decades. It only covers, again, services that are powered by user-generated content, does not cover services that are purely about editorial content, such as, say, Netflix's of the world. It applies, though, to all the services that are provided to Europeans, regardless of whether the providers themselves are based in Europe or not. And in its spirit, the DSA is an attempt to improve the mechanisms to allow us to better enforce the rules about illegality that we already have in the national law, such as child sexual abuse, copyright infringement, defamation, grooming, etc. So it's trying to improve these laws through the mechanisms that it offers. And in addition to that, it's trying to increase the trust of individuals in the digital services through increase of predictability of the decision making when they make content moderation decision, reducing opacity of the services through transparency rules, and increasing agency of these individuals.